Check 1 2. Check 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right. Throat's a little sore today. Actually, did not sleep the greatest this weekend. Feeling slightly below the weather. I understand the power of the words that I speak, and I know that scientifically proven is how much physical ailment is perpetuated and initiated by your brain, and the words that come out of your mouth go into your ears and into your brain. You believe them. So I know that me saying exactly what I'm feeling all the time can also make it worse. And that's not just for a scratchy throat or whatever, but definitely know the power of your mind, the power of your words, and how much that can impact the actual physical things you experience and feel in your body. So trying to maintain a positive vernacular as I'm talking, but definitely didn't really feel too much like recording today, but then I was like, who cares? I'm just gonna at least record something. So my phone is slowly tipping down. So yeah, I think one of the big things that hit me today was thinking about vlogging and thinking about what I was gonna say. It really just comes down to why am I feeling under the weather, and what else is happening because of that. Is it just my my throat feeling scratchy? Is it just is it all mental? Is it all physical? What is it? But obviously I'm feeling real physical symptoms in my throat, but there was something beyond that. I was feeling depressed today, and it wasn't just physical. It was like really mental, and just kind of like trapped feeling in my mind, feeling like I was stuck, and not really feeling super excited about anything. And that's a feeling too that, just like a scratchy throat, can have a real impact on what you do, what you choose to do. And I was starting to think about that. I was like, why am I feeling like this? And I was going through a list in my head of things that were on the schedule for tomorrow and different items, activities, etc. that I'm not necessarily the most excited or stoked about. Some things that just have to get done, which is cool. But I started looking at my list and thinking, man, I didn't really plan out my week yet, but there's already so much on it. And I think that it's sometimes a little bit of a trap to plan too far in advance, because to me it's like debt. You can create stress for yourself if you plan things too far in advance. It's like if you spend your money in advance before you have it, you're in what's called debt, and you have to pay interest on that debt. Now, I think time is very similar, and principles in the earth tend to be similar to each other. So what do I mean by time debt? Now, time debt, I don't know if I've heard it anywhere before, but I've been doing a little comparison contrast in my head of what time debt is. And time debt is like regular debt, like regular money debt. Money debt, you buy something you can't afford, or I should say, you buy something before you have the funds to pay for it. Then you pay for it later, and it costs more than it would have if you would have had the money outright when the time was that you purchased the item, because the service and the value being provided by the credit card companies, they're providing you money to buy something that you want right now so that you can have it now. And for that value in exchange, you have to pay them a percentage of the money on top of what the item actually costs. That's called interest. Generally, credit card interest is extremely high, can be upwards of 30%, meaning you're going to pay quite a bit more than what the item actually costs to have it. And that's true of a lot of things. When you sacrifice the long term for a temporary feeling, it can be with food. I know I've done that so many times where it's like, yeah, I'll worry about my health later. Right now I want these M&Ms. Right now I want these Oreos. Right now I want this McDonald's, whatever. You know, it's the same thing. You're paying for something now with something you could have had later, and it's going to cost you more. You know, time can be shaven off your life because of instant gratification decisions versus delaying that and deciding, you know what, hey, I'm going to choose to have a longer life than this instant pleasure that's going to last for a couple seconds, and then I'm going to feel bad anyway from eating a case of Oreos. Still learning. Huge thing for me that I'm still learning, but I'm getting a lot better at it in the food category. But time debt, spending the time before you have it, it's interesting. And by interesting, I don't just mean interesting. I mean it comes with you having to pay interest. How do you pay interest on time? You pay interest on time through something called worry or anxiety. If you have too many things on your calendar in too far into the future, it causes you to think about those things too far in advance. Not saying planning's bad, but there is something to be said about overcommitting and overscheduling. Now, when you know your next week is already full, Sunday can seem really difficult because your week's already spoken for and you don't have any time margin. A lot of people are focused on profit margin, but time margin is, in my opinion, more valuable and more important. And if you didn't plan to have any time margin or budget for time margin for something that you wanted to do, and your schedule's too full, you can start to become stressed out. Now, one way to avoid this or alleviate it is, yeah, do you have to plan in the future? Yeah. Do you have to schedule meetings in advance? Yes. But how far in advance? I think for me, and I'm still thinking about it, but I think scheduling things out more than a week, unless it needs to be. And if it needs to be, like if it's a video shoot that requires a lot of moving parts, pieces, schedules, etc., weddings, whatever, I get it. Week's not enough time. But I always ask myself, I shouldn't say I always do, but I'm beginning to ask myself as of late, is a week enough time to schedule this item? Or better said, do I need more than a week to schedule this item? So if it's Thursday and somebody says, hey, can we meet in 2 weeks? I generally want to say, let's follow up next Thursday and see about meeting the following Thursday rather than just putting something on the books for 2 weeks out, because then you're pre-committing and you don't know what else is going to come up, and you want to make sure that you didn't overcommit your time. So I think a week is good, at least for me, at least in this season, at least for now. I'm not saying it's a rule for everyone, but I think a week is probably a pretty good rule of thumb to say. If it's Thursday and somebody said, hey, can you meet next Thursday? Generally sounds like probably, yeah, it'd be good. All right, let's put something on the books for next Thursday. Now, if it doesn't need to be scheduled, and really you should be asking yourself, do I even need a meeting? Could this be handled in a different way? Could this be handled with an email? And I'm not saying it always can be and always should be, but ask yourself, make sure, because there's a lot of meetings people schedule that don't need to be scheduled or are irrelevant and can cause stress, worry, extra preparation, and things to occur that didn't need to occur before. So if you schedule something, like let's just say you schedule 5 meetings 2 weeks in advance. Now, when you get to that Sunday 2 weeks from now, and your big week is about to come up, and you're looking at your calendar and you're really excited about new ideas you had, new things you want to do and work on your business, places you want to take your family, and then you look at your calendar and you're like, dang, all my time is taken up by these 5 meetings plus everything else I normally have plus my normal workload, blah, 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 blah. And my time margin is gone. And then you schedule that week, you start scheduling things out for 2 weeks in advance from there. And you're just constantly pushing it forward. The Bible says, therefore I tell you, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Today's troubles are enough for today. So that formula for success is basically telling me that as much as I can do in a day, I should just focus on that day. And then when tomorrow comes, like if somebody says, hey, let's meet in 2 weeks, let's talk about that in a week and see if that makes sense still, right? Or if somebody says, hey, let's meet tomorrow. Awesome. I actually really like, I didn't used to be like this, but I really like, sweet, let's talk tomorrow and see when a time might work to meet tomorrow. Because sometimes it might be solved. You might do a phone call. You might have a text. You might have an email that solves the problem. You don't have to meet. But when the meeting's on the calendar, then you've committed, and people don't like backing out of their commitments. That's another principle. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Now, I've struggled with that for a long time because I've overcommitted to things in the past, and it's really hard to keep my yes. And so I'm like, Lord, how do I let my yes be yes when I'm letting the stress be stress? And that was a really bad joke. But letting your yes be yes and your no be no. I felt like the Lord explained this to me very simply. It's way easier to let your yes be yes one day at a time inside of each day. And same goes for no. I don't know why this phone is just straight sliding, but same goes for no. It's really powerful to let your no be no inside of one day and not overcommitting. Now, if you said yes to 5 things 2 weeks in advance and you get to that week and you wish you wouldn't have done it, now you should still keep your commitment, because the principle of you being a person of your word still applies regardless if it was 2 weeks in advance or not 2 weeks in advance. But the secret is that you can much more easily be a person of your word, make it really easy to be a person of your word if you don't commit to too many things too far in advance. That's the trap. So, secret success formula for letting your yes be yes and your no be no, and not paying interest on your time and not getting yourself into time debt, is as much as you possibly can say yes to things inside of a day only. Meaning, hey Joey, can you meet today? Yes or no? If you say no and they say, can we meet tomorrow? As much as you possibly can, let's touch base tomorrow morning and sync up on our schedules to see if we can get something on the calendar for tomorrow. I didn't say no, I didn't say yes, I just deferred the conversation to tomorrow so that decision can be made inside of that day. Now, saying no, hey, can you meet today? No. That is generally less likely you're just going to be able to say straight no to a lot of things, but what you could say is, hey, what did you want to meet about? This, and this. Okay, cool. Here's the answer to that via a phone call, text, email, whatever, really quick. Oh, sweet. Cool. So it sounds like we got that resolved. Awesome. Now there's no meeting tomorrow. So you might feel like you aren't a person of your word or you let people down or whatever. I imagine you're probably just overcommitting. You're getting to that time and then you seem flaky because you want to back out of something, and you want to back out of it because you probably shouldn't have ever committed to it in the first place. So if you live inside of a day, give us this day our daily bread, right? Day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself, right? Today's troubles are enough for today. Today. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Much easier to do when you're not focused on tomorrow, right? So, hack principle for being more successful and letting your yeses be more letting your yes be yes, letting your word be your word. Principle is, and not paying interest on time debt as much as you possibly can. Do not spend time that is not today. Meaning, live in the moment. Live each moment as each moment occurs. And be hyper-focused on each moment as each moment occurs. When you're too focused on the future, you mess up in the present. And a present mistake is a future expense with interest. Hope that helps. Future me and whoever's watching this, don't get yourself into time debt. The interest is impossible and it can never, ever be recouped because time is a limited and incredibly valuable resource. Don't waste it. Live each moment by each moment and each day by each day. That's what I got for today. We'll see what we have tomorrow. Not planning that far in advance.